Good evening, everybody. I'll be with you in a second. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope everybody's doing good. It's not as cold as it was out yesterday, thank goodness. So, how was everybody's day? Mine was really good. Oh, I should have went out and did a little bit of shopping, but I was too lazy. So I'm going to talk about a couple things tonight. What's going on, of course, with our countries, and also there's somebody in my held for review box that keeps asking me to do some stuff on First Nations, in particular the missing women, but I really cannot talk about that a lot. Of course I know about it. Hi, Rhonda. Of course I know about it, but I can talk about the scoops. I can talk about the residential schools. I can talk about reserves, that type of thing. So I'm just going to talk about what I know about. Well, first and foremost, Trump has asked Congress for $200 billion to continue his war. And Pig Hedgewith says that that's not nothing. It could get as high as $4 billion. And you all over there in the United States should be thankful that Trump is doing what he's doing. That's what he's saying. Now, another thing that happened too was Trump met with the Prime Minister of Japan. And while she was sitting there, and there was cameras and lights, Trump brought up Pearl Harbor. A reporter asked him why the people of the United States were not, or Congress, were not informed of his unlawful war. And what Trump came out with right in front of the president of Japan and said, well, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to give him a heads up. I mean, and he looked over at her and said something along the lines of, I wish you would have gave us a heads up about Pearl Harbor. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, oh my God, I am sorry to tell the people of the United States, but if you think any other country out there in the hemispheres is going to come to your aid when it comes to this war, it ain't going to happen. All it is going to do is bleed your country dry financially. That's it. At this point, MAGA's kind of in a shambles because they can't stick up for him anymore. They're like, everything he ran on has just turned out to be actual bullshit. So let's just hope the Senate gets off their ass and impeaches the cracker box. Oh, definitely he needs to go run. He's not in his right mind. He's nuts. He is the rudest, oh, what a pig. He is the rudest, most disgusting leader of a country. He even outdoes Russia. He's beyond disgusting. So, you know what $200 billion could do for the people in the United States right now? A fuck of a lot. And if it gets up to 400, I can't even imagine. Anyway, oil prices went up they were up early this morning at $117 a barrel. Then they went back down to 111, I believe. So gas prices aren't going down soon at all. And the Arab countries over there are all talking to Iran. They're negotiating back and forth on how to make money off their oil without including this part of the world. That's great. So unless Trump tells everybody over there from the United States to pack up their shit and go back home and mind their own fucking business, we are going to be in one of those forever wars. Which, even though I'm not American, I'm Canadian, and that affects me. But I'm telling you this much, if Trump was in this country, we would have ran his ass out. It's exactly what we did to Trudeau. We forced a re-election and got him the fuck out of there. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is anybody who's followed me or has followed me knows that when I first came on, I talked about being part First Nations. And I'm going to be honest, I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. I didn't want to talk about it because I went pretty much all my life, the minute I open up that I'm half First Nations, people are always curious about it, and then I gotta talk about it. And especially in America, because their heads have been so pumped full of First Nations people are supposed to have feathers sticking out of their hair and all that shit. And they're supposed to look a certain way, and you know, you get kind of sick of that when you're a light-skinned First Nations person, because that's the first thing people say. Or another thing they'll say is, as soon as you tell them that you're First Nations, when they can't identify it by looking at you with the image Hollywood too has put in their head, they will turn around and say, oh, I'm part this, I'm part that. And that's true, they probably are. I'll give you a good example. Kathy, my friend Kathy, hang on. When she first found out I was part First Nations, she talked to me about Cherokee. Now, with her, I could kind of tell, because she has what is known as really identifiable features. It's in Kathy's eyes and around her cheekbones. So of course, when I looked at Kathy's pictures and stuff, I did wonder, but me, knowing that First Nations people come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, I would never have asked that question. But there's a difference between having, we'll call it Indian, or how about indigenous blood in you, than being First Nations. A lot of people in America and in Canada have indigenous blood in them. Somewhere down the line, somebody had a romantic evening, and there you go. But not a lot of people are First Nations. To be First Nations, you have to have a certain amount of blood quantum in you, and it has to be proven. You have to have historical ancestry proof. And you have to be registered with a band. And that's where I got my status card from. Now that changes tribe to tribe. Some tribes require more blood quantum than others. That's these days, but I'm old. So there's a thing on the back of mine which it says expiry date. And mine is not, it doesn't exist because mine's a lifetime card. I don't even know if they give those out anymore. But I do go every once in a while and get my picture updated on it. But that's about it. So I wanted to point out something because I know a lot of my audience is American. This Mark Wayne Mullen, who is right now set to take Kristi Noem's place at the head of Homeland Security, he's also First Nations. And so is his entire family. And if you see, his daughters are very, very light-skinned, but they're First Nations. Now, how this became an issue was two reasons. Number one is Dar had a person in her chat room that was pretending to be. And of course, I know. So I called her out on it. I said, "You're not First Nations." And oh my God, did that ever make her mad? So what she did is she used Dar's page, Robin's page, several pages to leave comments, including her own channel, totally lying about me, putting out racist stuff on me, because her feelings were hurt. But the thing is, I never said that her daughter, because it later on came out that it was her daughter that was part Indigenous. I never said her daughter was not Indigenous. I said she wasn't. And even if her daughter is part Indigenous, unless she has that card, she is not recognized as a First Nations person. I'm not saying she wasn't Indigenous. I'm not saying her dad wasn't Indigenous. I'm just saying that she's not First Nations. But because Beverly was so goddamn ignorant to it, and of course, thought she knew everything, just like Jenny Rhodes and Robin does. They didn't understand that. Now, Beverly's daughter's dad could be indigenous. But then there's a lot of people that are indigenous that never got their First Nations cards, never were registered as First Nations people, and therefore they never belonged to a reserve. So therefore that does not make them First Nations, it makes them indigenous or part indigenous. It could be very much that Beverly, the mother, didn't know enough to do it, didn't know enough to go and get her daughter's status card. And a lot of times, if you don't get them as a child these days, it's very, very difficult to get them because you got to come up with documentations. And when it comes to First Nations people, our records, a lot of them have been destroyed, a lot of them nobody gives a shit about. A lot of our mothers were born at home, and you know, that type of thing. Because we were on, our ancestors by that time were on reservations. Hi, Kim, how you doing? So this enraged Beverly. And Beverly was so enraged that she openly on a social media platform started bullying me and using her channel to harass me. And I got sick of it and I reciprocated. And boy, oh boy, those trolls have never forgotten that. See, the one thing about trolls is they always remember what you do to them, but they don't remember why. And they can't let anything go. So, I mean, I'm not doing those type of videos anymore. I don't give a shit. I know I can do them better than that group of trolls, so I don't care. And you get tired of it after a while because they're just so damn dumb in the head. They don't get it. And around that same time, what was her name? I can't ever remember her name. She was a folk singer from the 60s. Her name was Buffy St. Marie. It got out that she apparently did not have Indigenous or First Nations blood in her. That she was actually Italian. Now, Buffy St. Marie did a lot of good for Indigenous people through her music, through her awareness, and donating money and time, and giving us a platform when we didn't have one, at a time where we didn't have one. People like Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Buffy St. Marie. Who was the other big one that did it? During things like the Grammys, they would acknowledge us or acknowledge their history being part Indigenous. And everybody made a big deal about this Pertendian thing. And Jenny Rhodes, the racist, or I should say big bitch, because she's fat. She's latched onto that. So she's done videos of me, calling me a Pertendian, putting feathers in my hair. And I really haven't said much about them because it just makes her look like a loudmouthed, dumbass American racist. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Because if you notice, the women that do this are all American. Because the rest of the world is not totally educated, but a little more educated. So, about this type of thing. So anyway, I could have come on at that time and said, you know, and there was this big stink about amongst the trolls about, oh, well, her card's a fake and this and that. Well, my card isn't a fake at all. And either was Buffy's. Because tribes have chiefs, just like your president of the United States over there. And our chiefs have the power, just like your president of the United States over there. So that card that Buffy St. Marie had was given to her by a chief. It was presented to her. So therefore, it was perfectly legal. It was above board. The only thing is the reporting of that did not go out because it didn't make for good news. And of course, trolls are stupid and they got so much hate in them that, especially for me, that they use that to target me. Jenny Rhodes put out a video tonight. She seems to think in her head that I have to explain to them where I live. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. This fat little troll who hides behind her fake avatar, scared to death to say who she is or show who she is on YouTube demanding that I tell her about my personal residences. So, Jenny, because I know you're listening, when you come out from under your rock and stop being such a slug and a coward and a racist, I will have a conversation with you. And I will explain to you about my residences because it's not that big of a deal. It's just you can't figure it out, so you're curious. So you post all this crap hoping that you will trigger me. Well, it's not gonna. But I am challenging you. If you want to come out, literally come out. And I'll even give you a hint. You keep going on about Ingersoll. Well, honey, in the last 8-9 years, I've had my name on 3 places in Ingersoll. Not just 1, 3. So try to figure that out, bitch. But anyway, how's everybody doing tonight? Hi, hungry. Yeah, I know it's nobody's business. But these bitches, if you look at their channels, it's so obvious. Like, I could report them, especially Jenny Rhodes. But she's got like 136 followers. Half of them are fake avatars. She's linked to Robin 2.0. She's just a fucking troll. And, you know, they think they're playing psychological games with me, which is hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. So how you been, Hungry? What have you been up to? So that's just what I wanted to come on and say. Now, if things don't get better in the U.S., well, they're not gonna. It's either gonna if, like I said, if Trump doesn't get those troops home, get the Navy out of the water, stop it, just stop it, then we're gonna end up in a long time war. Which, I mean, I'm not afraid of being blown up over here or anything like that, but it's going to financially drain the shit out of everybody over here. But mostly it's going to be the people in the United States that hurt the worst. We're hurting. I mean, of course, our gas prices are up a bit. Um, Groceries are about the same. Just got my hydro bills. They're just about the same. That's pretty much all the same. But yeah, when I go to the grocery store, there's some things that freak me out a bit. And I know from talking to people in various parts of the United States that some areas are hurting worse than others. And but I do admit, I worry. I think it's because I'm older. And of course, this time in our lives, we need medication. We need doctor's care. And I worry that you guys aren't getting that. That's what bothers me the most. And you're not getting the medications you need. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but you know Medicare, right? Do you know the whole reason that it was? You ought to look up how that came about. The whole reason that came about was for the very reason I just talked about. Is at one time you had a government that was actually working towards giving you guys universal health care. And the first step they made was Medicare. And that was, they decided that the age group in the United States that needed it the most was, of course, older people and seniors, because they were the main, people that used it. The majority needed it, and they started by giving Medicare. Because what Donald Trump is doing is not helping you guys a bit, because he can turn around and say, okay, so this is what he's doing. He'll go in, they'll go in and negotiate with it. We'll just use insulin. I'll just use that as a drug. But I'm not for sure if that's a specific drug. It's just an example. And he'll come out and say, well, I capped the price on insulin, and, this is the insurance, and this is what it's going to be, and all that crap. And then once you guys go, okay, well, fine, I'll pay that insurance, whatever, there's nothing in place to stop the drug companies from raising the price again. And that's exactly what they do. So you never get anywhere. And even this whole thing he's ran on with taxes, not taxing tips. And what's the other thing? Overtime. Do you realize that that's only till 2027? It doesn't matter. No, there really is no cap on it. That's my point. There's no cap on it. Because these drug companies can change the cap in America anytime they want. So that's why it kind of goes up, down, and then it goes through the roof. Whereas when you got universal care, the government takes care of all that. It buys it, And it stops the drug companies from being able to do that. So if your country would have continued along the way that they started, I think that was in 1965 for some reason, um, what their intention was in 1965, you guys would have had universal health care a long time ago. But of course, the pharmaceutical companies started lobbying, you know, paying for certain people to get into office. And of course, they wanted favors, and it's pretty obvious Trump doesn't care about human beings. So he's not, you can't trust him to cap the price on anything. Because like I said, he can tell you, okay, I'm bringing insurance down 30%. And you go, great, medical insurance. You go buy it and your insurance goes down 30%. But then all your drugs go through the roof that are not covered. And it eats up your insurance. So it's take from Peter to pay Paul, and at the end of the day, the American citizens end up paying it all. And this has got to stop. I started thinking about how to bring forth change and periods of time in our history that brought forth change. And I realized it's the working class people throughout history that bring the change, that have brought the major changes. So if you go back to labor movements, that was the working class people. They got out in the streets and they stood out front of their capital, and they took great risks. I mean, in Detroit, in the car plants is a great example of that. When the coal mines were starting to no longer, people couldn't live off coal mining, and they all moved to Detroit to manufacture the cars. They weren't making a damn dime. So these men fought, Gerald Ford and all those assholes, and went on to provide worker protection, safer working environments, better hours. Oh, sorry about that. I lost you for a bit. It was the working class women, not the rich ones, that got out there and marched and sat on the parliament buildings and said, no, we want our right to vote. And I think that's going to happen here again, is the working class people are going to have to stop this division over red and blue and MAGA and not MAGA, and come together and tell these rich fucks enough's enough. Hi Wonton, how you doing? So yeah, I think that's what's going to happen again. And I'm pretty sure it will happen. Because one thing they're not mentioning is the potash that's not coming through the Straits of Hormuz, which is your fertilizer. So the growing season is going to be cut down to what it was last year. And they're already saying they've got to look into finding people to start working in the farms picking crops because they don't have enough people. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on. Now, away from the facts for a bit, and to my opinion, Donald Trump knows he's not getting back in. Not the right way. Not legally. He knows it. He's a lame duck president. So he is going to do anything and everything he can to maintain power. And a lot of crazy shit can happen. You know, storm the Capitol. He's trying to put ICE outside of voting stations to scare people away from voting. So it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. But if you guys can just come together, get the Democrats back in the House of Senate, they will impeach him. And once they impeach him, then I think everybody in the world, Hungary, will be able to breathe. Everybody will. And yes, you can start to rebuild your country. You know, Hungary, where I live, I am only like 2 hours from the nearest, about 2 hours from the nearest bridge to United States. When I'm up north, I'm only 25 minutes. And I grew up in the United States. I went to high school in the United States. I have family and friends in the United States. My area is just totally intertwined with United States and Canada. And we really feel it here. Now, I know people out in Vancouver and all that, or maybe people in the States don't feel the whole vibe we're feeling here, but we're feeling it. And we too want him out. I personally don't hold any animosity to any Trump voter, because the way I look at it is, if he lied. I mean, what he was selling was a good deal, but he lied. It's as simple as that. And that's not anybody's fault who voted for him, that's for sure. But at this point, you know, when coffins are coming back draped with flags, if you're still supporting him, you need to give it up. Speaking of that, I belong to True Social, because that's where I get a lot of my Trump stuff, because he sits up all night long tweeting. And one of the things that just floored me is he has an advertisement on his page. And I know y'all know the picture. It's a fundraiser for himself. And the picture he is using for it is that picture of him with the ball cap saluting the coffin with the flag on it. And he's using that as a picture, as the picture on his flyer for his fundraiser. He's also using that same image to sell his ball caps. This man's sick. Anyway, I'm going to let y'all go. Talk to y'all later. Have a good night. Stay safe. Put a garden in this summer if you can. Bye now.